Hello and welcome to Project Management Basics, everything you need to make your project a success. This is episode 10 and we're going to be talking about maturing. So just like the rest of the sessions, practical, minimum jargon, free tools included, and about 10 minutes. So we've actually sort of finished our project now. We've finished and wrapped up and released all our resources and completed our end project documentation in the last session. So now we're talking about moving back, looking at that, maturing, moving on to the next project possibly, if projects are right for you. Not right for everybody, of course. You may have hated the experience, you don't want to see another project ever again. If you do like it, and some people catch the bug, then we can talk about what comes next. The thing about projects is it's something different every day, every time, so it's not a stale job. There's always something to test you, surprise you, something to keep you coming back to work every day. So I really like projects, lots of people do, and hopefully you're feeling the same way about it. So let's think about some different sorts of things. So projects, lots of different types of projects. I don't just mean the technical things you're delivering, but the way in which you might choose to deliver them, the way in which organisations structure them, etc. So some things, as we talked about earlier, that are still BAU, business as usual, rather than projects, simple small projects, and that's probably what you've dealt with the first time round. Most people tend to start on small projects, cut their teeth, and move up onto complex ones afterwards. And in fact, we have within the tool you've been using, Community Edition, a model that supports that. It's our N-step projects model. We've got one-step projects, which are underneath the conventional smallest project. They are a business as usual type activity, but you can manage them in the same way. We've got then three-step projects, which are small single deliverable projects. It's the one we've been looking at in our office move discussions. A four-step project, which is using multiple delivery steps, and then a five-step, which is a more structured, higher level of documentation, again multiple delivery steps, and a sort of direction and oversight process as well. These are all generically what are described as waterfall projects, so something happens after another thing. You go from 1 into 2 and in 2 into 3, etc. Although actually they have an agile element to them. Agile is a different way of thinking about projects, but we don't plan it all up front and try and deliver what we've planned, but we identify what might be required and work through the most important aspects of that until we've spent the money and the time. And we might do another session on Agile later. We'll come back to that thought. So different types of projects. Actually, these steps, the 4 and 5-step projects, have the ability to insert an agile element to the middle of the project. These delivery stages can be agile in nature. Another big determinant about projects is that they can be commercial, so you're doing a project on behalf of somebody else, as a supplier, if you like, or they can be in-house projects. They tend to be quite different in the way they're managed. I mean, obviously the same principles apply, but there's a much stronger burden around finances usually on a commercial project, and you've got the aspect of the internal finances and of course the finances as you see them portrayed to the end customer. So different complexities around that, and so there's a whole range of places you can go with projects and different methods you can explore around all that, and you can do some of that of course in Community Edition. And you will also want to develop yourself as a project manager, so you need to develop experience and capability. No one's going to get you landing the next man on Mars based on having just delivered the office move. You move up through more complex projects, you get experience, you probably move out of project areas that you have domain experience in, technical experience in, to become a pure project manager. So and that helps build your capabilities. In terms of building your skill set, people do self-training. There's an awful lot of material you can get online to self-train, videos on YouTube and all sorts of other such things. And people also do online and classroom training as well. So you can equip yourself with some of the models and techniques and methodologies, certifications as well, which if you're going to be aiming to be a full-time project manager, definitely good to have some certifications under your belt. And of course, whilst it's not the be-all and end-all, a fool with a tool is still a fool. Tools are important. They can help you cut out some of the legwork and the handle-turning stuff and focus on the big important things, the communications, the decision-making, all those sorts of things, which a tool can't really do for you. So tools are useful, and it helps to be good with them. obviously. So we're helping you with some tools again. We'll talk about some more planner things, and of course techniques, which was just what we were talking about earlier. So let's go and have a look at a few of these bits. So we're going to have a look in our community edition, just like we've been doing every session so far. And as I mentioned, community edition supports a range of methods. So we've been looking at our Office Move project so far. I mentioned about the business as usual type projects, but let's think about one step further up. So we'll look at a 4-step project here. And this shows us our concept start, manage project, deliver stages, close model. So we've got a repeatable set of stages being delivered within the middle of this project. It makes it slightly different to the one we were dealing with before, 3-step, where we just had one set of deliverables. But here we've got that starting up and managing the project element, and we're going to then insert stages into the middle of that. So if I come and right click on stages, I can do manage stages, and I can get my new stage and another new stage. Let's call that new stage 2, like that. So I've got several blocks of deliverables. We can see immediately it drops all the documents in here for me. So I've got my project level documents, things that happen just once on the project, and then my documents for each stage. And of course I can deliver a stage, I can come back, I can do the management of the project, I can close off one stage, add another stage. It's a little bit like, it's like when we talked in session 6 about delivery, and we talked about delivery sometimes happens in blocks. So that's exactly what this stage is. When you've got a more complex project, you're going to deliver things in units. And in a waterfall type sense, you'll deliver one unit, you'll make sure you're happy with that, you'll go back, you deliver the next one. In many projects, of course, people deliver these things in parallel, some of them. Some in parallel, some in series, some overlapping. But the tool is there and structured so that you can do that. And the 5-step method works in a very similar way. Likewise, we talked about Agile type projects. And so if I come to DSDM Return example here, we've got an Agile framework. We've got a project that comes through some planning stages up at the beginning, where what we're trying to do is identify a prioritized requirements list, a list of all the things that we'd like to do in this project, which are the most important ones, which are not so important, which are just optional. That's the idea. And what don't we want to do as well. That's called a Moscow analysis. And what you then do is you work through a series of repeatable cycles, and you say, well, this one's going to take 2 weeks and cost £1,000, and we're going to get as many of the important things done, as essential things done as we can. And we work our way through that until we get down to the less important things, or until we've spent all the money and used all the time. And this makes sure that for an uncertain project environment, we're always going to get the best, the most important things, and it's relying on a good prioritized requirements list that's well thought through and includes all the things that might be done or might not be done on the project. That's a very quick look at Agile. We'll come back and look at that probably some more in another session, but that's the general idea of it. So Community Edition is supporting all of those methods. It's not possible to add your own methods to Community Edition. On our commercial tools, you can write your own methods with your own sets of templates, etc., and use those. Planner, of course, is the other tool we've been looking at so far, and that supports your plans, risks and issues, and that's what we've been using it for. Of course, we've sort of skimmed the surface again with Planner, really, of the things that it can do. So we'll have a look at a few more of those now. So when we talked about our plan, we looked at tasks and we talked a little bit about resourcing it, but these can be resourced, and they can also then be managed as timesheeting if you want to. You can record your budget costs and actual costs against those, and we have tools up here for doing all that. You can select the person you're interested in and note down the hours they've spent and how much actual physical costs they've incurred against the project to work out how you're going with your budgeting. So that's quite a not necessarily a common thing, but a thing that people mature into as they move through their project life cycles into more complex projects where that sort of thing's a bit more important to keep track of. Risks and issues. We made a passing comment about risks and issues about managing responses. So we said when we were managing our risk, and we were really just talking about this sort of earlier level, we're going to rate our risk, inherent and residual, and we're going to keep a commentary on how we're managing the risk. But actually it's quite common as people mature again to manage more formal response model. So here you might have a multiple set of responses because a risk has a number of different aspects to it and a number of ways that you might address it, and each one of those is held as a different response. So it allows you to be a bit more granular about how you're dealing with the risks. And of course, if you're scoring and financing all that, it allows you to do a bit more of a detailed analysis about that data. So we can be coming in and looking at the statistics around our risk model as well. Same sort of thing applies to the issues as well, with the responses. And of course, if you're preparing risk responses and your risk becomes an issue, then it's helpful to have all that documented and take all that forward with you. So that's just a quick look through some of those additional things in the tools that we've looked at so far. We'll just come back and wrap up with our slide again. And the issue is really, what is next? Well, we've come to the end of our 10 sessions that we said we were going to do. They've taken us through the life cycle of a project from a fairly simple, basic point of view, and now we've just talked about investigating some of those things that might take us a bit further. So what do we want to do next? Well, that's to some extent up to you. I've got some ideas about Agile and various other things that we might look at, but I'd be interested to hear what you think. So by all means, leave us a comment, letting us know what you'd like to talk about, and we'll run some sessions on those sorts of subjects. So that's it for the end of this set of 10. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to hearing about what you'd like to hear some more about, and your hopefully positive experiences of delivering projects. Thank you very much.